Hello, my name is Aiden Wiley, and this is going to be my presentation over our local community needs. I know this is supposed to be done on Canvas, however, my Canvas doesn't allow me to screen record this here as well as my webcam. It is one or the other. So we're going to make do. I figured this is a good solution for it. So that way you can at least get both sides of everything. So you get my presentation as well as you can see my PowerPoint slides here. Okay, so our main locals, my local community need is going to be housing. Okay, I chose this simply because I think it is level 3. I think it is at the top of our list here, simply because I'm living through it. I'm experiencing it right now, how high the cost of living is, especially for somebody like myself who is a full-time student, just trying to make things work. Okay. And when it comes to housing, it's not just going to be, my housing as well, it's going to be homeless as well. And we'll get into that a little bit later on. Okay. But for our housing here, let's move it along. The facts for our housing here in Bell County / Killeen, Temple, Belton area, which is where I currently reside in, okay? Housing in Killeen and Temple area has gone up essentially almost 60% since 2019. That is ridiculous, okay? I mean, that is, going from $1,000 to $1,500 or more, $1,600 in the span of 5 years. That is an issue because income has not gone up 60% in those 5 years, but housing has. That's why housing is so difficult for so many people, including myself, to be able to do. Now, the Killeen Housing Authority, the KHA, they unfortunately owe a pretty good chunk of money to different housing authorities, okay? This is kind of a big roadblock because if you owe other people money, you can't put a lot of money back into your community for it to thrive, which is going to be a big issue, and it is currently an issue, and we are seeing it playing out right now, and it is affecting your average people. It's not affecting, your government people. Yes, they are selling assets to be able to pay these debts off, but it is affecting your average person like you, me, our homeless people way more than anybody else. And that is an issue. Okay. And some renting issues. This is kind of my whole personal side of things, is the renting issue that we are seeing here. The renting is constantly been on a downward slope since that 2019 kind of area. 81% of rental properties are overpopulated with an average of 1.5 people per room. That is crazy. It's not even on an average of just one person a room, which when you have 3-bedroom duplex, for instance, which is what I'm currently in, there's an average of about 5 people for 3 bedrooms. That is completely unacceptable, and that shows how desperate some people are. So, it's not only an issue with just being able to purchase a house. It is an issue with just trying to rent a house, just trying to live and be in a shelter, essentially. And then this is also why homelessness has been on the incline in the Central Texas area. No one can afford to simply live, and the poverty rate is up to 16%. That is ridiculous, and that is super sad and depressing, and I cannot believe it is that high. Granted, there are other places in the world where it's way higher, but for Central Texas, where the military base and all this other stuff is right here, there are jobs, just not enough because the overpopulation is getting, to be pretty extreme. Now, solutions that I can have to kind of propose here would simply be, it's a very hard topic to find a solution for something like this, especially when the KHA is owing so much money to different housing associations. It's hard to be able to pull money to be able to build these homeless shelters and food banks and such when you owe a lot of money. You can't afford to pay to build these homeless shelters and be able to afford these food banks and things like that if you owe money. You know what I mean? I mean, when you're in debt, can you just go pull out more money randomly? No, you can't. And that's kind of the situation that we're seeing here. However, I mean, my first solution is going to be to build a homeless shelter. And the reason that building a homeless shelter is going to be my number one is simply because there's only one homeless shelter right now in all of Bell County. That, I mean, it gets overpopulated and people are turned away constantly, and that is something that we need to kind of change. And a good way to change that is to simply get another one. Way easier said than done, because if we had the money to do it, it would have already happened. Now, the fact that it hasn't happened, I mean, you know, it's a very weird kind of gray area we're in right now. So that is my first kind of solution. Very obvious, I know, but it's what we got to work with, okay? And the fact that whenever it gets really cold, which is coming up right now in this February, you know, kind of area, is super cold, harsh weather. And people are being turned away because the one homeless shelter that we have can't support all these homeless people. There's no way people are getting turned away when it is 0 degrees, 10 degrees. People are being turned away and forced to, you know, go to wherever, find a place really. And that is so bad. Okay. Now, another solution, providing rental assistance. This is another kind of gray area that is a little bit weird, but rental assistance is simply government aid to be able to help homeless pay for rent and pay for utilities and things like that for a few months. Now, this is a very good solution simply because it allows people to try to get on their feet again. It allows people to try to have time to go out and find jobs and find other things like this, because they're not having to worry about, how am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to pay for food tonight? How am I going to pay for this water bill that I got coming up? So maybe having some more financial assistance, not just from the KHA, because we do understand, as I presented, the KHA does owe money, which it's going to be almost impossible to be able to, you know, hand out more money, like I've been saying this whole time. And that's kind of our biggest roadblock in this area, is that the KHA owes money. And when you owe money, can't build, right? So maybe some government assistance, not just from the KHA, but Texas, simply. From higher ups, you know, something like that could be a route to take. Now, finances. To be able to build a homeless shelter, it is going to be around $1 million to be able to build a successful homeless shelter. Now, building a temporary homeless shelter is definitely a route we can go. However, a temporary homeless shelter is a temporary solution. We need something that is going to be a solution for the long term and not just 6 months or a year. We need something that is going to set the standard and set the wave for the future, so that way we're not having to struggle. Especially with these temporary, yes, it is a you know, cheaper solution for a shorter amount of time. However, in the long run, it will be more expensive, but it is an option for a Band-Aid, basically. Some nonprofit organizations. There are a couple food banks around here that you could partner up with as a new homeless shelter to be able to provide food and different things like that, as well as spread the word about a new homeless shelter. Because if people don't know it exists, people aren't going to show up, right? So just using, you know, different companies like that to be able to spread the word of the new homeless shelter would, I mean, it's just, you got to work with these nonprofit organizations just to kind of get the word out there, as well as very close by, there is the military. I don't know how, that's a very weird topic as well, but, you know, trying to do anything you can with the VA, spreading the word about you. I know a lot of former vets are struggling and things like that. This could be the way to help them, is getting a new shelter, as well as providing that rental assurance, right? Now, the basic virtue that I'm going to finally go over is going to simply be, I think the strengths are the fact that there are a lot of nonprofit organizations around here, not homeless shelters per se, but a lot of nonprofit things where there's a lot of, you know, donations and, there's a lot of donations, a lot of volunteer work. And I am willing to bet that those people who volunteer are willing to volunteer again. Now, I also think the military is a big strength. And then here's my works cited. I mean, I basically got all of my information from the City of Killing's website, as well as Belton, their website as well. But the KHA, that is mainly where I got all my information from for this. So here's my works cited. And it is unfortunate that I am having to record this and post this on YouTube, so I do apologize for that it is not in Canvas, but I am trying to make do with what I got here. So I hope you can understand that, and thank you. That's been my presentation.